my family, I was the responsible one. That was never said out loud like a compliment. It was said the way you'd describe a piece of furniture: useful, sturdy, easy to overlook. My younger brother, on the other hand, was the story everyone wanted to tell. He was charming in that effortless way that makes people forgive him before he's even done anything wrong. My parents lit up differently when he walked into a room. I noticed that when I was about 9 years old, and I never stopped noticing it. His name is Callum. He's 3 years younger than me. When we were growing up, I got good grades because I studied hard. He got decent grades and everyone acted like he performed a miracle. I ran track, held a part-time job through high school, applied to college on my own without much guidance. He needed tutoring, emotional support, constant reassurance. My parents provided all of it, joyfully, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And I told myself that was fine. That was what families did. You helped. I kept telling myself that for a long time. I'm a software engineer, started at a mid-sized tech company right out of college, worked my way up, got promoted twice in 4 years. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable in the way that requires discipline. I budget carefully, I save, I don't spend on things I don't need. I live in a 1-bedroom apartment in Denver that I'm genuinely proud of because I pay for it myself, on time, every month. My brother dropped out of his first college after 2 semesters. Then he enrolled in a community college, dropped out of that too. He drifted through a few jobs: warehouse work, a brief stint at a car dealership, some vague attempt at starting a landscaping business that never really materialized. Through all of it, my parents covered him. Rent when he couldn't make it, car payments when he fell behind, groceries when things got tight. They never once made him feel bad about it. That was just love, they said. You don't abandon family when they're struggling. I didn't get that framing when I struggled. When I was 22 and my transmission blew out and I asked my dad for a small loan, just to get back on my feet, I said, I'll pay it back. He told me I was smart and capable and he had confidence I'd figure it out. I did figure it out. I ate rice and beans for 6 weeks and figured it out, but I didn't forget the difference. When Callum decided at 26 that he wanted to go back to school for real this time, a 4-year nursing program at a state university about 2 hours from where my parents live, my mum called me, excited in that bright, breathless way she gets when she's already decided something and just needs you to agree. We think this is it for him, she said. He's really serious this time. He met someone, he settled down, he's ready. The someone was a woman named Ingrid. I'd met her once, at Christmas. She seemed fine. Quiet, she worked as a dental hygienist and laughed at all of Callum's jokes, which I understood. He's funny when he wants to be. That's great, I said, and I meant it. I did want things to go well for him. The thing is, my mum said, and I felt my stomach shift slightly, the way it does when you sense the actual point of a conversation arriving. He doesn't quite have enough for the first year. Tuition and housing combined, it's about 18,000. We can put in 10, but we're a little stretched right now with Dad's knee surgery. I want to be clear about something. I was not pressured, not overtly. My mum didn't say you have to or you owe us. She just laid it out the way she always laid things out, in this tone that assumed a certain answer, the way you assume someone will hold a door open if you're walking close enough behind them. And I held the door. I said I could cover 8,000 to make up the difference. We'll pay you back, she said. She didn't. I didn't really expect her to. What I didn't anticipate was that it would happen again, and then again. The second year, Callum's financial aid came through, but not enough. Could I cover 4,000? Third year, there was a gap in housing costs, 3,000. By the time he was in his 4th and final year, I had contributed just over $22,000 to my brother's education. Not in one dramatic gesture, in small, reasonable-sounding installments that each individually seemed manageable and collectively had taken a significant bite out of what I'd been saving for a down payment on a house. I hadn't told anyone how much it totaled. That felt important to say. I wasn't keeping a running grudge. I kept a spreadsheet, the way I track all my finances, and the number was there every time I opened it. Here is the part where I have to be honest about why I kept saying yes. I wanted to matter to them, That's the simple version. I wanted to be the reason something good happened in my family, and I wanted them to know it. I thought, at some level, that if I helped Callum succeed, they would look at me differently, not with the polite, muted pride they'd always shown. She's doing fine, very responsible, but with something warmer, something that felt like I was seen. It didn't happen that way. In the spring of his final year, Callum passed his nursing boards on the first try. I sent a congratulations text. He sent back a thumbs up emoji and a string of fireworks. My mom called me to tell me the news as though I might not have heard, and she was crying happy tears, and she said, "He did it, he really did it." And I said, "I know, that's wonderful," and I sat on my couch after I hung up and stared at the wall for a little while. His graduation ceremony was in May, a Saturday. The university does a big convocation, cap and gown, faculty procession, the whole thing held in the basketball arena on campus. My parents bought tickets immediately. Callum's girlfriend Ingrid got tickets. Her parents got tickets. It was going to be a whole event, dinner reservations after the extended celebration. I assumed I was going. I didn't ask because I didn't think I needed to. I was his sister. I had paid for a substantial portion of the education he was graduating from. It did not occur to me that my attendance was optional. The conversation happened about 3 weeks before the ceremony. My mom called on a Tuesday evening. She opened with small talk. How was work? Was Denver having nice weather? And then she said, in a carefully modulated voice that I now recognize as the voice she uses when she's already rehearsed what she's going to say. We were talking about the graduation, and we wanted to mention Ingrid's family is flying in, both her parents and her aunt and uncle, and they've already got the extra tickets, so it's going to be a full section. We just don't want you to feel like you need to make the trip. I said, I'm sorry, what? It's a long drive from Denver. We know you're busy. We just didn't want you to feel obligated. Mum, I want to be there. There was a pause. We know you do, sweetheart. But honestly, the parking is a nightmare and the ceremony runs almost 3 hours and Callum's going to be surrounded by people, so you wouldn't really get much time with him anyway. I want you to understand that at no point in this conversation did she say I wasn't invited. She was much too careful for that. What she said, over and over, in different configurations, was that it was fine if I didn't come, that I didn't need to, that it was understandable. Every sentence was shaped to give me an easy exit, which meant that if I pushed through anyway, I would be the one making it difficult. Is there actually a ticket for me? I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. We'd have to look into it. There was no ticket. They had not gotten me a ticket. I told her I'd think about it and got off the phone. I sat with it for 2 days, and I'll admit I spent a fair amount of that time wondering if I was being unreasonable. Maybe it really was about the logistics. Maybe Ingrid's family genuinely had taken up the available seats. Maybe my mum was just trying to spare me a long drive for a crowded event where I'd be standing on the periphery. But something kept pulling at me. Why had no one thought to reserve a ticket for me when they were reserving everyone else's? Why was I the variable in the equation? Why was I always the one who could be accounted for with, "She'll understand"? I called my dad. I asked him directly, "Did you not get a ticket for me?" He sighed. The kind of sigh that tells you the answer before the words do. Honey, Ingrid's family is important. Her parents haven't met us yet. This is a big deal for them. We just thought you'd get it. You always get it. There it was. You always get it, said like a compliment, meant like a dismissal. I told him I understood and hung up. And then I did something that surprised even me. I bought my own ticket. There were seats still available in the general admissions section, upper level, partial obstructed view, $38. I put it on my credit card and I said nothing to anyone. I drove up the morning of the ceremony by myself. I wore a green dress and the small gold earrings I'd bought when I got my first real promotion, the ones I wear when I want to feel solid. I parked in the overflow lot and walked in through the main entrance alone. I found my seat in the upper section, which was crowded and loud and had a concrete pillar that cut off about 15% of my sightline to the stage, and I sat down. I could see my family's section from where I was. Reserved seats, better angle. My parents were there, and Ingrid and a group I assumed were Ingrid's family, 4 adults dressed nicely, looking happy. My mom had a corsage on. My dad was wearing the blue blazer he saves for occasions. They were taking photos before it started. No one looked up. The ceremony began. It ran long, the way these things always do. Administrative remarks, a faculty speaker, an alumni address, a student speech. I ate a granola bar I'd brought in my purse and watched the pillar and found Callum when the nursing cohort walked in, recognizable by the white coats they wore over their gowns. He looked good, genuinely happy. I felt something complicated, watching him, pride and grief, and something I didn't have a clean word for. The student speaker was a woman from the nursing program, someone who'd come back to school after 10 years as a hospital administrator. She talked about the people who had believed in them. She said that behind every person crossing the stage there was someone who had made a sacrifice they might never fully know about, and that the truest measure of love was not loudness, it was constancy. I had to look at the ceiling for a moment. The graduates walked across the stage alphabetically. Callum's last name put him in the second half. When they called his name, my family section erupted. My mum put her hand over her mouth. My dad stood up. Ingrid's parents clapped vigorously. I clapped too, up in my obstructed view seat, $38 alone. After the ceremony, there's always that chaotic period where everyone streams out and tries to find each other in the crowd. I made my way down slowly. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Part of me thought I'd just go to do. Part of me thought I'd just go. I'd seen it. I'd been there. That was enough. Part of me wanted to find them and make them content with the fact of me standing there in my green dress having driven 4 hours round trip with a granola bar. I found them near the east exit, the whole group of them, Callum in the center still in his gown. He saw me before anyone else did. His face did something strange, surprise, then something that might have been guilt. Then it resolved into a wide smile and he said, "Hey, you came!" Like I was a pleasant coincidence. My mum turned around. She went very still. "I got a ticket," I said, to no one in particular. My dad said, "We didn't know you were coming." "I know," I said. There was a beat of awkward silence. Ingrid stepped forward and introduced herself properly and said it was so nice to finally meet me, which was gracious of her, and I liked her better in that moment than I ever had. Her parents were warm and friendly and had no idea anything unusual was happening, which made sense because nothing unusual was happening as far as they could see. Just a family reuniting at a graduation. Callum hugged me. It was a real hug, the kind where you can feel someone actually trying, and he said quietly near my ear, "I'm glad you're here." I believed him. I think he meant it. What came next I hadn't planned. I hadn't driven up there to cause a scene. I wasn't carrying some prepared speech. But Ingrid's father, a broad-shouldered man who, I would learn, was a high school principal in Ohio, looked at me with genuine interest and said, "So you're Callum's big sister. He talks about you." "He does?" I said. Said you were the one who believed in him when he went back to school." I looked at Callum. He had the grace to look at the floor. "Did he tell you anything else?" I asked. Callum said quickly. She was really supportive. "I paid for it," I said. My voice came out even, not angry, just clear. A significant portion of it over 4 years, about $22,000. The silence that followed was different from the awkward silence before. This one had weight. Ingrid's father looked at Callum. Ingrid looked at Callum. My mother made a sound that wasn't quite a word. My dad put his hands in his pockets. Callum said, We were going to pay her back." "Were you?" I said. I wasn't trying to humiliate him. I want to be clear about that even now. But something in me had decided, standing in that east exit corridor with the smell of popcorn and fresh paint, that I was not going to manage their comfort anymore. I had driven 4 hours round trip and sat behind a pillar because no one had saved me a seat, and I was not going to smile and make it smaller. Ingrid's father, his name was Richard, I'd learn at dinner later, said quietly, "Son, you didn't mention that." "It was family stuff," Callum said. It wasn't. It's relevant, Richard said. He wasn't harsh about it. He just had the steady, calibrated tone of a man who had managed a building full of teenagers for 20 years and knew when someone was deflecting. My mother tried to redirect. This isn't the place. She drove here by herself, my dad said suddenly. I looked at him. He was looking at my mom. She bought her own ticket and drove here by herself. I don't know what was happening inside my father at that moment. I don't fully know now. But he said it like a fact he'd just understood the weight of, and he didn't look away. The dinner that evening was a reservation for 9 at an Italian place near the university, the kind with cloth napkins and a bread basket they refill without asking. I have not been included in the reservation. There were 9 seats and I was not one of the 9. My mother mentioned this in a way that I think she intended to be logistical and came out sounding like what it was. Richard said, "We'll pull up a chair. It's a round table." They pulled up a chair. I sat between Ingrid's aunt and my brother. The conversation moved the way dinner conversations do. Toasts were made, food was ordered, stories were told. Richard asked me about my work. I told him about the project I'd been managing, a back-end infrastructure overhaul that I was genuinely proud of. He listened like someone who found it interesting, which I appreciated. At some point, Callum tapped my arm and said, lowly, so that just I could hear, "I should have made sure you had a ticket. That was wrong." "Yeah," I said. I didn't really think about it. "I know. I'm going to pay you back," he said. "Not all at once, but I'm going to." I looked at him. He's my brother. He has always been charming in a way that makes it very easy to forgive him, and I have spent a lot of years deciding whether that's a gift or a liability. "Okay," I said. "I don't know if he will. I'm not holding my breath in a bitter way, just in a realistic one." But I wrote it down when I got home that night, the date and what he said, the same way I track everything else. My mom called me 2 days later. She said she was sorry I felt like I wasn't included. I noticed the construction of that sentence. Sorry I felt it, not sorry it happened. But it was more than I usually got, and she said it quietly, without defending herself in the same breath, which felt like something. My dad called the day after that. He just asked how the drive home had been. We talked for 20 minutes about nothing in particular. Weather, a podcast he'd been listening to, whether Denver was still dealing with the construction on I-25. Before we hung up, he said, "I'm glad you came." He didn't say he was sorry, but he said he was glad I came, and I think, for my dad, that was the longer reach. I still have the ticket stub, $38, upper level, partial obstructed view. I put it in the small ceramic dish on my dresser where I keep things I don't want to lose. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it eventually. Maybe nothing. Maybe it's just useful to have proof sometimes that you showed up even when no one saved you a seat. I know my family loves me. I've never seriously doubted that, not in the fundamental way. What I've doubted, what I still sometimes sit with, is whether they see me. Not the useful version of me, not the responsible one who always gets it. Just me driving 4 hours in a green dress with a granola bar in my purse because I wanted to be there. I was there. I sat behind the pillar and I clapped when they called his name. And when they asked who had believed in him, I didn't have to say anything at all. I still think about that drive home. 4 hours, mostly I-70, the sun going down somewhere around the Kansas border, granola bar wrapper on the passenger seat. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry exactly. I was just sitting with the strange quiet of someone who finally stopped pretending a thing wasn't happening. I spent a long time believing that if I was useful enough, patient enough, generous enough, the people I loved would eventually see me. Not the version of me that was convenient. The one who could cover a tuition gap. The one who always understood. The one who didn't make things difficult. Just me. And what I learned, slowly and then all at once in that corridor outside the east exit, was that waiting to be seen is not a strategy. It's a habit. And habits don't break themselves. There's something I've come to think about character, the real kind, not the kind you perform at family dinners. It's built in the moments nobody's watching. It's built in spreadsheets at midnight when you're tracking money you know probably won't come back. It's built in the decision to buy a $38 ticket and drive up alone anyway, not to prove a point, but because showing up was the right thing and you knew it. That's the part of yourself you have to protect, the part that does the right thing even when the right thing is invisible to everyone around you. My brother is not a bad person. I want to be honest about that, the same way I've tried to be honest about everything else in this story. He's someone who drifted through years of his life without much accountability, and the people who loved him most made that very comfortable. That's not entirely his fault. But it is now his responsibility. At 26, with a nursing license and a future and a good woman who deserves the full truth about the man she's building a life with. It is his responsibility. What Richard said to him in that corridor wasn't cruel. It was just clarity. And clarity, even when it's uncomfortable, is a form of respect. I think about what it means to be the kind of person who keeps going even when the recognition doesn't come. Not because you're a pushover, not because you've convinced yourself that suffering quietly is noble, but because you've thought it through, really thought it through, and decided that your integrity is not contingent on someone else's gratitude. That's the thing I'm still working on, honestly. The knowing it and the feeling it are not always in the same place at the same time. What I carried out of that graduation was not the apology I never fully got, or the reimbursement I'm not holding my breath for, or even the image of my dad saying I was glad you came in a voice that cost him something. What I carried out was the knowledge that I showed up, that I sat behind the pillar and clapped when they called his name, and I did it because it was true to who I am, not because anyone was watching. The ticket stub is still in the ceramic dish on my dresser, $38, partial obstructed view. I know what I'm worth, and I didn't need a reserved seat to prove it.